Today, we're going to unpack something that's, I feel, pretty essential to every successful team. We're going to talk a little bit about training and coaching, but specifically training and coaching that actually works. So here's the thing. Effective training isn't just about handing out an instruction or checking a box. It's about building trust. It's about setting clear expectations, giving meaningful feedback. It's about helping people growing in a real, sustainable way. So in this episode, we're going to explore some of those more proven coaching techniques, some of the mistakes that we could avoid that probably we've made or maybe we've experienced that we could avoid.
Welcome to Lead Like a Girl, where we are empowering everyday women through our stories. I am your host, Jessica Smith, and I began this journey by sharing my life story. Now, I've joined forces with my longtime friends, Jamie and Coralyn, to keep this party going. We met many years ago as young sales girls in our 20s, driven and quickly rising to the top of our industry. As the years went on, life happened, and we all found ourselves in new companies and completely different industries, still striving for success in it all. Career, family, faith, fun. Now, it wasn't easy, but we never stopped moving. Get ready for our real conversations, inspiring stories, and our big life lessons as we share it all. The good, the bad, and the funny. Welcome to Lead Like a Girl.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Lead Like a Girl. This is Jamie. I'm hosting tonight. I am going to start off with something that we did a few times, but not every time. I'm with my best friends, Jessica and Coralyn. Hey, guys. How was your weekend?
It went by so fast. I don't even remember, but it must have been good. So
okay, tell me one good thing.
On Sunday, pastor at church asked Will and I to start a singles ministry, which I thought was hilarious.
What? A married couple?
No,
Wait,
singles. Singles.
Okay. Ask a married couple to host a
singles ministry.
Yes, because we were single once before, right?
Yeah.
If you think about it, yeah. So that's exciting.
Hey, can you tell all of our listeners what happened right before we started the podcast that under your desk, though, also?
Do you really want me to tell? So the dog took a shit right under my desk. And we were just talking about not cussing, and you knew I wasn't going to say it. Is there another word for shit?
Oh.
Poop.
A dropping.
No.
He went number 2. He evacuated his bowels.
I don't know when he did it, but I was sitting here.
I can keep going.
The only reason I say that is because today, so I saw this meme not long ago where it was like, nothing gets you out of bed faster than the sound of your dog puking. And today, while I was working on a Teams meeting in the middle of a total conference call, my dog starts throwing up. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Like I had to watch it. It was horrible. Okay. How was your weekend going? Is this the best intro to this podcast ever?
I know.
Okay,
I don't
Coralyn.
know if I can beat puking.
How was your weekend?
Other bodily fluids and solids.
Yeah.
Our weekend was actually
start with our YouTube channel, Jamie.
Girl.
No,
I said I was throwing you off.
So we got a sweet little blessing. My husband's mother had this fantastic idea to take our little guy on a adventure. So they took a car from here to go to Wisconsin and got their car on a ferry and took a ferry across Lake Michigan to Michigan to meet his brother-in-law. And then her sister and her grandson went with them. So it's grandma's grandson's son,
so cool.
And then his son. So it's all this huge adventure. And so he's spending his first day of summer vacation on this wild adventure with grandmas. And I've talked to him a couple times. He's having a blast. So we actually are kid-free this weekend, but it was filled with graduation parties. 'Tis the season for that.
Oh, yeah.
So I've had more pulled pork and tacos in a bag than I can shake a stick at.
Tacos in a bag.
No.
All right.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I just I listened to a few podcasts too, and one of my favorite things is learning about their personal stuff, and I just thought let's throw that in there. Thanks everybody for listening to us because we love the feedback. I mean, just, I'm wearing some swag, Lead Like a Girl t-shirt today. And I was reminded actually this weekend, I had several people tell me that they're listening and that they like our website, and it's so easy to buy t-shirts and our awesome glasses and everything like that. And also it's really easy to listen to it on all of the different platforms. So just a reminder, you can listen to us in the car on the way to work. We usually try to keep it to 30 minutes. So anyway, thanks for tuning in and listening to us and giving us comments and questions. And please continue to give us topics that you are interested in hearing about. So anyway, welcome back. Today, we're going to unpack something that's, I feel, pretty essential to every successful team. We're going to talk a little bit about training and coaching, but specifically training and coaching that actually works. You might be leading like a small team. Maybe you've got like a growing business. Maybe you're just trying to help somebody lead to their full potential. Maybe you're coaching or mentoring, but the way that you coach and you train makes all the difference. So here's the thing, like effective training isn't just about handing out an instruction or checking a box. It's about building trust. It's about setting clear expectations, giving meaningful feedback. It's about helping people growing in a real sustainable way. So in this episode, we're going to explore some of those more proven coaching techniques, some of the mistakes that we could avoid that probably we've made or maybe we've experienced that we could avoid. Just some ideas on how we could create a culture where people can feel a little bit more supported, maybe challenged in a good way, more capable to create their best environment or maybe able to present their best self. So let's get into it. And I'm going to start on the opposite side, right? What would you guys consider being in terms of training, coaching, and teaching really is right in there too, because we're just like kind of guiding people. What's like the worst? Give me the worst experience you've had with a teacher / trainer / coach. Like what was like the lesson that they taught you that was like, no, this is not working for me. This is not helping me.
Oh, and I know we had an episode on this. So, and I love this topic. Thank you for this, Jamie, because this is actually my favorite part about leadership is the coaching and training aspect of that. And it's also a forgotten piece of it. I think that especially in sales, that sometimes leaders think that their job is just to make sure that you're hitting your numbers. And I think there's just a huge miss on that because there is definitely a coaching and training and teaching aspect to leadership. Doesn't matter what your team is or how experienced they are, that is part of it. So I would say the worst is when we talk about micromanaging, that when you're, micromanaging someone through a training or new process, that is the worst. And that's been my worst experience. So I'll just keep it simple.
I remember being hired to a company, and my first day was basically you kind of the normal, you walk around, introduce people. This is what so-and-so does. This is what so-and-so does. Here's your desk. This is how you sign into our corporate system. Let me know if you have any questions. Almost to a T with a little few exceptions. That was the training into a completely new industry, a completely new everything. It was just, you tell us what questions you have and we are happy to answer anything. So it was very coming from this posture of we're here to help you do whatever you might need and support you. But the challenge is from that perspective of training, sometimes you don't even know where to start or what to ask. And they think they're doing a great job because they don't want to over communicate or over train because you got brought into the company because you've got good ideas and you've got a skill set coming from the outside. But if there's zero foundation and you don't have to train, you don't have to tell me all the things, but can you tell me one thing?
Yeah.
Yes.
But I don't know. I think sometimes it's just lazy asses too. Seriously.
It is unprepared too, which we'll get into a little bit in the conversation here. But my absolute biggest pet peeve is when I'm being called up to perform in a certain way, but there's no direction
Oh, gosh, don't get me
whatsoever.
started on that.
Right.
It's
I can't
horrible.
wait for you for your stories.
You're like,
because
yes, I want you to get started
you know
on
what
that.
is so funny, because I'm like right in the middle of the two of you, because it's, remember our micromanaging episode, because I was thinking like, my opinion is like, when you're Coralyn, when you're really new at a position, I kind of want to be micromanaged because I want to, give me something, like, please
Right.
tell me what to do. But
Yeah,
then
but I don't
when
consider that
when
micromanaging.
right, you said,
No.
yes, I know.
Yeah, that's direction.
But then when you know what to do, you're like, trust me. So it's just such a it's a
Balance.
flow. It's a balance. Exactly. So one of the things I was looking into the dated coaching styles, and one of them was like, my way or the highway. You do it my way. I'm not going to take any feedback from you. I don't care what you have to say. It's my way, and this is the way we're going to do it.
Direct buy all the way.
Yeah. The other one was personal praise. So they attributed this a little bit to an athlete. So saying like, you're such a great athlete. I'm sorry, a good natural athlete, but they didn't recognize like hard work and work ethic or effort. This got me thinking about when I coached volleyball, and there was an athlete who was just very tall. Okay, I don't know. Coralyn, you played volleyball, right?
Mm-hmm.
Jess, have you ever played volleyball? Did you play?
No.
Okay. So being
Jessica
tall is
doesn't
an
even know how
asset,
to
right?
throw a ball, let's be honest.
Do you?
No. As a matter of fact, I played basketball.
Okay,
school,
girl. Okay, so
but
you can relate
not
to this.
volleyball.
All right.
I did
So
not
this
know
girl,
that. Look at us learning
we're
something
talking.
new. I did not know that you played basketball.
Yes.
Have you held a ball, Jessica?
Right.
So we know you don't like to go outside. It's fine. It's fine.
I was going to say, not in the woods.
Okay. So I was coaching a team, and one of the girls, I mean, we're talking like a sixth grader, maybe seventh. She was like 6 foot tall. I mean, she was very tall, not athletic, but tall. And just because of her height, of course, she can spike the volleyball. I mean, she can block and she can spike. And I had girls who were just tiny little girls who were just running and hustling and working so hard. And, you know, you look at the team and you're like, this tall girl she's playing every single time, all the time. Yeah. And everyone was absolutely praising her for this because she spiked but these little ones who were running, you know, they didn't get and so I kind of looked at it, man, you know, the praise for the natural athlete versus the hard work and effort. So that was another one. And then also they brought up the authoritarian, which is essentially like, you don't do what I say, you're going to get punished. You know, you didn't do it right, you're not going to get the good leads. You didn't do it right, you're going to get to the back of the line or whatever, or you didn't do it right. So,
or you didn't do it like I said to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
You couldn't memorize that, and so you're not going to move on to the next step or whatever it is. So anyway, those are just a few of the dated methods of coaching and leadership. So what I'm more interested in, though, is your stories of what are your methods? I mean, you have both mentored people, you've both coached and been leaders, you've both trained people. Tell me what your stories are. Like, what have your successes been, and how do you normally start how do you start? What do you do when you have someone that you're going to get started with training or mentoring?
So I want to add something that it goes with this, but something that you said in terms of like an old school mentality. And I think this is definitely for people who have been in coaching and training for a number of years. You know, that saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. We have to be very careful, especially if we've been successful in certain areas of coaching and training for so many years. We have to be able to change with time. And so using those old proven methods can only get you so far. You have to pay attention to how the world is changing and really adapt your training and coaching. So one of those areas for me that I've learned is the one size fits all. There were proven training methodologies that were like, okay, this works and it's a proven system. Remember what we used to say, and you give it to everyone. And I think back about some of, the young college graduates that came in, and we gave them this program and we're like, it works. And then we had sometimes, I remember we had two women that were like in their 60s, and we're like, here, do the, and did it work? Absolutely. It worked for them too. But what I've learned today is that I do not coach and train those two people the same way now. You just can't. And what changed in the world, or maybe we couldn't do it then, but we made it work and we shoved it down their throat and eventually they got it. I don't know. But I know that I've learned that you really have to adjust your style for the person. And in a lot of cases, especially if you have a sales team, you have turnover. So you're usually not training like a big group of people all at once anyway. So you do get to customize your approach for the individual. And
Do you
I've
have an
come
example
across,
of yeah,
yes.
thank you.
So I was going to say, I came across a young lady in my recent, probably in the last 8 years, that it was clear that she had ADHD. And I was familiar with it only because all of my sons have ADHD. Probably came from me. And so, but the difference is mine, because at a very early age, I was able to form habits to kind of cover it up. You wouldn't notice as much. So with her, I think we just learned that she learned a little differently. So we might have a training schedule that says we're just like hidden training for a good 2 or 3 hours. And that's what the agenda calls for. But she doesn't learn that way. As a matter of fact, after about an hour, she was checked out. So I knew that when I learned, and I just by asking questions, because it wasn't like she showed up and said, "Hey, by the way, I have ADHD," which I really encourage when I mentor people to be open with those type of things. That way,
Mhm.
we could adjust the training and coaching from the beginning. But and of course, I knew and I identified it because I'm familiar with it. And of course, I couldn't just say, "Hey, do you have ADHD?" So I just would ask questions that kind of led her to the point to say, "Well, I do have ADHD." Perfect. I am so glad you shared that with me. But I had already figured that out. So we would do an hour, kind of go over some things, and then we take a break, come back, and I tell her, "Hey, let me know if you want to come back to this today. I'm flexible. If not, we can get back to it tomorrow." So just being willing to be flexible, being willing to show empathy for people who learn differently. So that's what I would say is one, and I hope that answers your question. One big thing that really stood out to me in terms of coaching and training.
I love that.
Mhm.
And I think that's a key to this is you have to be flexible. Every single person is going to need some sort of tweak to maybe you have a set guideline of how you train people, but there's always going to have to be some you got to you have to cater to the person's personality, because everybody learns differently and
Yeah.
everyone has their own thing in terms of like what they're going to how they're going to learn, but what they're going to be attracted to in terms of like, oh, this is my thing, or this is my this is what I want to do, so that you have to cater to that. So that's great. How about you, Coralyn?
Two things. One is, in light of my conversation of what not to do about not being prepared, is I am a firm believer in having a set agenda. So communicating that agenda to your trainee. So at least for the first few weeks, and having their schedule set so you can help them get off on the right foot. The last person that I had trained, I had different meetings set up for them to meet the different people of our leadership, wanting them to be introduced to some of our core customers and partner organizations, and set up meetings with those people. Also set up people with just even people within our organization that they might not necessarily interact with or need to interact with, but just so they have a good understanding of the other areas of our business. So in the event, you want to train because you want them to be on your team, but you also want to prepare them for what's to come also. Hopefully she won't be in this position for the rest of her life, but she'll
Yeah.
stay with our company. And the more that we can help educate and how the entire business works collectively, the better off they're going to be to understand when they're interacting with different people on our team. So I think having that agenda and having it not super rigid so it not change, but having a real set schedule so they know, and then also really establishing goals. Like, these are at the end of 2 weeks, this is where you should be. At the end of 1 month, this is my goal for you. At the end of 90 days, this is my goal for you. So they know too what your expectations. And then I also feel with that agenda, I also gave them some things to be able to do in the background. So we're going to be going through these things. I want you to learn these things, but inevitably there's going to be some downtime. So these are some things that you can work on and point them in the right direction. So in the event I can't be with you every single moment of every single day while you're training, here's a list of side things that you can either learn or plug into or do on your own to help fill in the time while you're getting prepared. And you can do that on your own. I just overall just being prepared. But then I also feel the other thing that I feel is essential is when you're going through that training process is I really try, especially with the core role, is not just tell them, hey, this is what I want you to do. A lot of times is actually walking them through and showing them how you would do it. For an example, we have to make phone calls and set up events. And so there's different things that we need to make sure of. And so my new hire, we would go and I would make the phone call first. And so she could hear how I handle the conversation, how I ask questions, the different things that we take notes on. And then the next one, then let her do it. And then here, and so
lead by example.
Yeah, exactly. Show them first how to do it. And then after that, then let them go. And then there's the opportunity for a little bit of correction and different things like that. But people, I just feel so much that if you want to have your direct reports have a certain outcome, show them how you would do it first. And obviously there's room. They don't have to be an absolute robot and a cookie cutter version of you. But if there's some specific things that you are expecting or want them to hit, then show them how to do it first. And then let them roll with it after.
Yeah. And no one wants to do that anymore, by the way. Like, I don't know what is up with that, but I am like, how can
no one wants to do what?
Nobody wants to show people how to do something anymore.
No.
And it's like,
that's my favorite thing.
Yeah. And it's like, and I think it builds their confidence to also know, like, you're telling me to do this, but and again, and I think this is for anything, but especially in a sales role, it's like, well, you showed me how to do it. Like, I found myself in that situation. Of course, I don't say it, but I'm thinking that, like, well, since it seems to be that easy, why don't you just show me how to do it? And this is on topic, but kind of off topic. Something Coralyn said made me think of this. And I love to empower people to do their own thing. So I always start with the end in mind. This is what we're trying to accomplish. And a perfect example of that, my most recent new hire, this guy, Jorge, like, he was great. It's like, okay, this is what we're trying to accomplish. And this is how you can accomplish it. What I loved about this guy is he went out and found 5 different ways to do it. Came back and was like, I did this and I actually did a video. And I'm like, what? I was so impressed. But I think half the battle is empowering people to do that. Yes, here is what we're trying to accomplish, and here's how you can get there. But however you feel free, I want to empower you to come up with your own, think outside the box. And as long as we get here, I don't care which route you take, as long as we get here. And I think that's something that a lot of coaches, leaders, trainers, whatever you want to call it, I don't know that they empower people. And people, I think that they limit what people can do by not empowering them to figure out ways and encourage them to figure out ways to get there and to come up with great ideas and be innovative and all that good stuff. So that's another piece I think is important.
Yeah, to that point, if you are so unbelievably rigid in your training that there's no margin for differences, I would imagine people these days aren't probably going to want to stay in your team, because that does really fall under that micromanaging bucket, that if you, this is how we've done it, but if you don't have any margin for ingenuity, for innovation, for new ideas, even down to different systems, I feel like I've always, for example, PowerPoint, that if I was going to make a presentation, I would go to PowerPoint. Well, Canva is infinitely better. And so my new hire likes to use Canva, and it's got so many more options, so much more versatility. Then go use Canva. That is fantastic. But if I've only said like, this is the only way that we're going to do it, then we're going to be pigeonholed to just this little piece.
And as a leader and as a coach, it goes back to that green and growing, not ripe and rotten. Right?
Yep.
It's taking it. Yes, you are a leader. Yes, you are the coach. Yes, you are the trainer. But you're also showing your leadership by taking your ideas from, it's not that authoritative type leadership. It's not my way or the highway. It's, I'm respecting you by taking your ideas as well. So I just I know, sorry, let me ask one more question, because I got to ask this before the end. Sorry, Jessica, I got to ask this. You guys are both mentors. I know you've mentored people. And I want you to, I want to ask you your take on that as well. What's your method? What is in your brain when you take on a new mentee?
So from a coaching perspective, whenever I take on a new mentee, I think that I am really wanting to get to know them and establish trust. Like, even whether it's a mentee or whether it is someone that reports to me, I really think that trust is the foundation of any relationship. Your marriage, whatever it is, this whole thing is built on trust. And once you have that foundation, that's where it's more meaningful when you give that feedback. So once I've established trust, then I can kind of say, okay, so for the next thing, and I know this is just what I say, sound like a broken record, start with the end in mind. What is your vision? Like, what do you want to be when you grow up, kind of thing? And what does that look like? What do you want your life to look like at retirement? And then we need to kind of just reverse engineer right into that. And that's kind of the whole individual development plan that I help people work through. And that is starting with the end in mind, reverse engineering all of that. And let's get an actionable plan, and then continue to follow up and see how you're working. That right there, continuous follow up, check in. What do you need? How are you doing with this? Accountability is a big part of that mentorship relationship. You guys know I am like, if you don't want to be held accountable, I'm not your girl. Don't even come to me if you don't want to be held accountable.
I mean,
and that's the same.
I'm 49 and you hold me accountable on a daily basis.
So that mentee relationship is a big part of that is trust and accountability, and really just continuing to follow up and seeing, what do you need? How can I help you? How can I support you? And are you doing your part? Are you putting in the work? That's so.
Thank you. How about you, Coralyn?
You know, I would say another parts to that is, one is just helping them understand the purpose, more so the why behind the what.
Yeah.
Helping them understand.
I love that.
You know,
said that before. I like it.
Yeah. I mean, if somebody understands why their work matters, whether it's professional or personal, because if we were coaching them personally, there's work too, which just may be a different type of work, but they're going to care way more about how we're going to get there if they understand why we're doing it. And I think so that's one, is just helping people understand their purpose and just the bigger overall vision of where we're headed and why it's important. But then I also just think with people you are mentoring, even though that there's a lot of things that we could point out, like, hey, you could change this, or this is why you're in this space, that's fine to point out, but also really speak life into all of their gifts and all of their talents. They're in front of you for a reason, because one, they matter. And if it's a professional relationship, they've been hired for a purpose because they have skills and gifts and talents that they can share. And maybe they're not honed in the right way where they're utilizing them to their best ability, but that doesn't mean they're not valuable. And so really helping them recognize these are the gifts and things that you have. Okay, let's tweak this in a way that it's more efficient and more better used within this context or personally. And then I would say just the last thing is just really helping them understand some of the fundamentals, kind of going back to a little bit of our conversation, but I really wanted to say this because Jamie, you will absolutely love this throwback. When we was thinking about this leadership, one of my favorite leaders in the whole world or book is John Wooden.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Wooden on leadership.
Yeah. And I couldn't remember exactly what it was, but I remember reading in one of the chapters that he would go in. So John Wooden, if you don't know, he was the coach for UCLA when they were just going bonkers. They had won so many back-to-back championships, and he had a very specific coaching process that he had with his team. And he would go into the locker room, especially for new recruits, and he would show them how to put on their socks and how to tie their shoes. Do you remember reading this, Jamie? And the guys are like, what the heck? I think I know how to put on my socks. And he's like, no, like if you don't put them on the right way, you're going to get a blister. And if you get a blister, you're not going to run hard. And if you don't run hard, you're not going to perform. And so it's all circles or comes back to that owning those fundamental things, those really easy, simple things you can do. And so the third thing in terms of mentoring is just making sure that you don't skip over those things. Yeah. Sometimes I feel like you're talking to people, especially when you hire people that are older than us or maybe have a little bit more tenure on the front end.
Yeah.
It can be intimidating for me as a manager to tell you what to do because I don't want to talk down to you, but it is vastly important to train on those fundamentals too, because sometimes I don't know what you don't know. And we have to teach.
And we can't assume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's a miss because you know what? Starting in the automotive industry, that was actually a lesson for me is because it wasn't an industry that I was from. And I did have people who had been in the business for like 20 some years. They were older people, but it's still sales, right? So I didn't want to come off like, they were already looking at me like, you don't know anything about this business. And I used to hear this all the time. Jessica, I've been doing this for 20 some years now. I've been in this game for a while. Yeah. And it's like, dude, no, because I've been in the same game you've been in because it's cars versus, a remodel. It's all the same.
Yeah.
We're all in the business of relationships. And sometimes we had to go back to the basics. And that was like, dude, you are not building solid foundations of relationships built on people liking you and trusting you. And so that was a great reminder of that. And then I said to myself, why am I assuming that these guys know this because they've been doing this for a while because maybe they've just been in it, but they suck at sales. And that's exactly some of them like, how the hell do you not know that? So that's a great takeaway is that sometimes we have to get back to the basics. We can't forget to train on the basics because we can't assume that they know what we don't know they know.
Yeah. Yep. Well, and the same can be assumed for someone coming into a role as the oldest person, let me just say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I just want to tell you, so just to get into a little bit of the takeaways, I came up, so before this podcast, I wrote down a list of my basic lessons for leadership. And I'm so happy to say that you guys, the things that you said tonight really related very well to what I came up with. And I knew that it would. And this isn't rocket science.
Great minds think alike.
I know, totally. Right. And this isn't anything probably new to anyone, but I was thinking about training people and I was also thinking about coaching and how they both very much related. And it came up with, I came up with really the first thing, setting clear expectations. That's really the first thing, right? We're defining our roles, we're defining our responsibilities, creating that plan of action. We're setting up that step-by-step strategy of what we're going to do. We're focusing, we're going to set up those measurable goals, right? We're going to figure out how can we measure this so that we know that we're going to meet the goals and we're going to move forward. Also setting up the goals, right? So that we know that we can complete those. And then also the last thing is just like setting up that Q&A, right? Actually meeting with your coach and meeting with your mentee and spending time with them and saying, how are you doing? What's going on?
Yeah.
And I want to say a kind of a shout out to my manager. What prompted me for this podcast was, and it's not the first time this has happened, but it was a really great reminder of a great question. And I would challenge anybody who's training someone, coaching someone. I'm in a new industry. And when I say new, I knew nothing about this. And I'm learning it from zero. And I'm in the position where I'm like asking, like, did I do this right? Like, how do I do this? I'm building buildings. And my manager, many times, I'll say, did I do this right? Or how do I do this? And his answer, not right away, right away, he was like, here's how you do it. But probably 2 months in, he'd say, well, what do you think you should do?
Mm-hmm.
And, that's great.
Yeah.
And
it's a simple question that goes a long way.
It is a very, very simple question, and it does go a long way. What do you think you should do? And I know, Jessica, it's a simple question, but it goes a long way. So that's what prompted me to have this topic, because I think that it gives me confidence. It gets me thinking. It gets me thinking prior to asking the question, because I know he's going to ask it. It's a great question. So, what are your takeaways, guys?
So for me, I just want, and I just hope that there are listeners that if you aspire to be a leader, and maybe there's some people out there that are leaders, and they really underestimate the responsibility of being a coach and being a trainer in leadership. And that's something that I see a lot and I hear about a lot. And so I would just encourage, if you think that you are someone who you're in leadership, but you think that training and coaching is not a big part of your role, I would challenge you to make it part of your role, because as a leader, there is a responsibility as a trainer and as a coach. And then the second thing that I'd like people to take away is, I don't care if you're coaching a volleyball team or if you are a coach in your community, if you're a leader at your church, whatever the case may be, don't just focus on the thing. Like, focus on the person. And so for me, even though I have a sales number and I'm usually coaching people to make sure that they hit their number, I'm more interested in coaching people, the person, to be successful, whatever that looks like to them, than I am in hitting that number. And when you do that, the number gets hit more than it doesn't. The game gets won more than it gets lost. So those are kind of my takeaways that I hope people will really, I hope that resonates with someone in terms of on either side of the coaching or being coached.
Mm-hmm. We talked about a lot of great things. I would, my takeaway, I would want our listeners to walk away with is that opportunity to show people who you're training how to do the thing. I just can't stress it enough that if you can't show me what to do, then we're going to waste a lot of time having me putz through different things. So, and if you can't really, it's hard to delegate something that you haven't actually demonstrated to somebody. So get in there and show people what to do. And then also just really paint that vision of where you're going and have some openness and have some flexibility to let the people that you've hired take the reins and get you there. And it might not be the same direct route that you did, but you're going to get there if you can paint a great vision on the output or the place that you want to see.
Yeah. Love it.
Well, thanks everyone for joining us tonight. Just a reminder, thank you girls so much for all of your input. I love your stories. I love everything you have to say.
Well, most things.
Most things. I mean, the dog poop, I don't know.
Don't edit that out, Coralyn.
Yeah, keep it in.
Hey, we'll see.
Right.
Just a reminder, you can catch us on every sort of streaming service. Jump on our website. You can buy merch. I'm wearing a Lead Like a Girl awesome t-shirt tonight. And if you'd like to see our faces, you can also see those on our YouTube channel. But as always, thanks so much for listening to us. We appreciate it. And if you have anything, hey, you want to be a guest? Let us know. We love it. But as always, thank you so much. Good night. Bye.
Night.